Hi there, everyone. Brandon Palace again. Comic book artist, illustrator, pretty new YouTuber. Here to do the inking on this drawing that we did last time. This is a character that I invented for a D&D game. Her name is Velira Splinth. She's a bit of a rogue, thief kind of character, but she's going straight. She's not stealing anymore. I only played her once in a game at a game store. Don't know that I'll ever play her again. I mostly DM when I play D&D, but I do like the character. I kind of like the personality that she kind of seems to have, and I feel like I might make some comics about her or something in the future. But right now, we're just using her to get some art done. Last time I penciled this. Today we're going to ink it. Um, so, well, let's go ahead and get started, and I will talk us through the process. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to bring my reference up here. Here's a drawing I did of her a while back, kind of when I first created the character. Um, so, yeah, I'm going to leave that up. It's not going to get in the way. I can refer back to it periodically, although now that we're in the inking stage, I'm not inventing stuff so much as just clarifying it, but there probably will be times when I'm going to want to refer back to the original art because I do pencil pretty loosely and there's a lot of interpretation to be done during the inks, so I will be doing that. So it'll help me to refer back to the original drawing. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these layers I made of pencils. I like to keep my layers, I like to just make a bunch of layers so everything is, kind of mutable. If I need to take out a big chunk, I don't have to necessarily go back in and carve around other things. I can usually just find the layer and wipe it right out. So I'm going to make a layer folder out of these. I'm going to hit Control G, which is my shortcut. We'll title that Pencils. And then I will hit my shortcut to just blue line that whole thing. Get rid of the underdrawing there, the original underdrawing. We don't need that. Create a new layer. I'm already on my pen. I have one pen tool that I use for virtually all of my inking. I don't like having to switch tools. I like to have one thing that kind of does it all. So I use this, whoops, it's on perspective. I use this pen that it's got a nice, thick to thin with the pen pressure. It can be thin when I need it to. I can go heavy when I need to. I'm going to start out like I did last time by doing just a little bit of warm up, like hand exercises. Here's the zigzags. These are going to come in handy because I'm going to be inking that grass today. Vary the amplitude, vary the density, make them closer together, far apart. Put like a little bit of S curve to it sometimes, This is at some point I started to kind of identify the lines that I tend to make, and boil them down to like you got your C curve, you got your S curve, and that's about it really. Every other, or you got a straight line, and like every line is kind of a combination of those lines. I'll probably do a video about that later. I'm really interested in what you might call line theory, and how digging down to the specifics of every mark you might make with your pen or your pencil or whatever your tool is, how that's significant in cartooning, comic art, anything. Obviously every mark is significant in any form of visual art you're doing, but in comic books, in like cartooning, this style of cartooning that I do, um, it really is down to each stroke. There's so much character um, to each of those strokes. So it's good to identify and like understand what you're working with, really. Um, okay, so I did the zigzags. I'm going to go ahead and do some bubbles, some smoke. I'm almost like actually drawing here. Uh, some of these are better than others. I'm a lot worse going toward the left than I am going toward the right. I'm left-handed, by the way. I don't know if that would be the same for right-handed people or if it would be the opposite, but I think maybe because despite being left-handed, I've spent my whole life, you know, writing from left to right. It might be easier to draw from left to right. I don't know. But anyway, okay, that's a good warm-up. I feel like my hand's a little loose now. I'm ready to get started. So let's take a look at this picture here. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to de-blue line that. I'm going to bring that back so we can just look over it real quick and see if there's anything that I feel like I want to address before we jump into the inking. Because when you're drawing, it's usually better to get all your stuff sorted out up front. You want to leave room to interpret and to kind of create during each process, so you don't get bored and it doesn't get like this stiff, lifeless thing about it. I find that when I pencil very detailed, well, I haven't done this in many years because of how I found this affected it. But when I would do very detailed pencils where every line was kind of in place, and then I would go to ink it, and the inking would be boring and like interminable because you're just tracing. So I like to leave room for interpretation in the pencils so that when I come back for the inks, I still have creative choices. But yeah, let's go over this right now. I know I left these boots a little loose. I think they're gonna work. Let me maybe clean this up a little bit. It's a little gnarly over here. Let's see. This boot is kind of overlapping a little right there, so get a little fold there. We got this kind of metal plate. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's probably good. I felt like her nose came out a little. Something about it looked a little off. Maybe it had like a little bit too much of like a bump on it. Well, I'll figure that out when we really get to the inks. And one other thing I noticed earlier was that this cloak here, that's kind of like on the ground piled up behind her, it kind of just like faded out here where I felt like it should have a little bit more. So let's add in just like a little bit there, kind of finish it off. And looking over it, it looks pretty good. My little signature there, I'm going to move up a bit. It's a little kind of too down in the corner. I feel like it needs to sit a little more, a little bit closer to the central composition. Placing the little signature badge is always a fun exercise in composition. You get to kind of, you can put it wherever you want, so you get the opportunity to put it in a place that kind of restates the composition. Maybe even on this side. I kind of do like it there. See, this is a perfect example. I'm going to move this little patch of grass up a little bit, and now I'm going to go ahead and copy this so you guys can see the difference. Here, I feel like I don't know how well you can see on the camera my movement here, but here we've got this way kind of movement, with all of these lines extending back toward the vanishing point to the top left. Um, and we've also got like a feeling of a lot of mass in this area, like this whole building, the figure here. But we also have a corresponding like energy coming this way with like the figure, a little bit of line coming this way. Not nearly as much as this way. You know, there's way more of this kind of thing. But there's a little bit here, and then her legs extending this way also creates like an X shape. So I'm going to put this little badge over here, so like her feet are kind of pointing at it, and it extends that kind of compositional line. I'll make some videos about this too. Composition is one of the most important things in drawing, but it's hard to learn. It's hard to understand because it's not as obvious as things like, well, just how do you draw a person? You know, how do you draw? How do you do perspective? Those are all pretty technical. Composition, while it can be technical, it gets a little more nebulous. It's a little more about feel and stuff like that. But there's a lot of rules of thumb that you can use and a lot of concepts that are good to know about. So let's see, I put that little name badge there. Let me switch it to the other side. See here, this works okay too, but now everything is kind of piled up on the right side of the image. And usually when I do the coloring, I'm going to color the name badge with one of the like accent colors of the image. Like say this image, I might have like a lot of brown for the the wood, you know, the building. I'll have some green for the grass. So there'll be a lot of brown and green. That's going to fill up most of the space. Like probably more brown, maybe with a little like yellowish tint for candlelight, like in this window area. And then the figure, you know, she's mostly kind of dark gray, but she's got some red on her boots. She's got this blue on her cloak, and I think that blue is probably going to end up being one of the stronger accent colors because it's going to kind of stand out against all of the green and brown. So what I'll probably do is put that blue on this name badge here. And when I do that, I'll have blue here and I'll have blue here. And it'll be like kind of piled up all on the right, like I said. So when I have it on the other side, now it'll be creating kind of this nice top right, bottom left kind of dichotomy, and it'll just like balance out the composition nicely. So having said all of that, let's jump into it. I will go ahead and blue line this folder again. Whoops. Create a new layer to start inking and get to it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the hat. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have as much to talk about with inking as I do when drawing and like actually figuring out compositional concerns and stuff, because inking is maybe a little more just intuitive, but we'll see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I immediately find that I have less to say. I want to say like, okay, you know, going around the edge of the hat here, you know, okay, there's the belt. I mentioned a little bit before about having kind of, at least in the last video I mentioned, about having kind of stereotyped objects. Like I think I was talking about the windowsill. Or the style of window that I was using there. Belt buckles are definitely a thing that I've got kind of a standard belt buckle that I draw. And you know, that's good. You don't want to do it all the time, but I think it's good to have a default. And then when you want to do something different for some reason, you've got something that you can you know, you've kind of got a baseline that you can kind of compare against and diverge from in a deliberate way. And you know, as a cartoonist, as a working cartoonist especially, um, you know, time is money. It helps to, I don't like that line there. It helps to have basic kind of blueprints where you can just knock it out without having to think about it too much. Um, and I think, cartooning, as opposed to like very realistic styles of art, are often about it's about simplification. It's about creating. I keep saying the word stereotyped, and we tend to think of that as a bad word. We tend to think of stereotypes as being something to avoid, which is usually the case, like in life, but in art, stereotype meaning just like a typical example of something. Those can be useful like archetypes. You can get across an idea of something quickly. You can use that as a baseline to depart from when you want to create something different. You can use it to play with expectations. You have a character type or something that we think they're going to be one way because of the way they look, because of the way they act, and then they end up acting a different way. So they represent the stereotype on one level, but they subvert it on another level. Um, so that's just like an overall like artistic and creative principle, I guess. Anyway, you know what? I am going to try to avoid putting too much detail and rendering into the parts of this for now. I'm going to try to come back to for that stuff. So let's see. All right, I'll just jump ahead to the face here. Let's go look at her. All right, so I feel like she has a pretty distinctive nose. It's it's kind of big, but it's not just there's something about the shape of it that I'm kind of having trouble capturing, but I think I might know what it is. I think it's this slightly dipping bulb of her nose. It's not up here. It kind of comes down a bit and then comes back up as we come like back toward the upper lip. I think that's it. So I'm gonna try to emphasize that here. All right. Yeah, I like that. I just hit Control N to make a new layer. Um, I like to keep a lot of layers, like I said, um, and especially with the face, I tend to create a lot of layers because the face is one of those areas. If this hat is a little bit crooked or a little bit, you know, whatever, this is a kind of a funny looking crooked hat to begin with, so it doesn't have to be too perfect. But when you get into the face, like every little bit, every millimeter of how you shape and structure and juxtapose all of these features are going to have an effect on the way the character ends up looking. We know that we're humans and we're social animals, and we know the human face more than we know almost anything. The slightest twitch of a muscle in the face changes the expression. So this is something we got to be concerned about. That lip right there already was creating the wrong look. I'll bring this back. See, this looks like a kind of lower lip sticking out. She looks a little more either aggressive or like defiant, and I want her to just look like she's kind of kicking it after a job, spending some of her money on a nice bottle of wine. Let's okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe a little more hint of a smile on the right side there, but I'll come back to it. All right, here we go. Moving on. Let's get that ear, her chin, and now I'm going into where this is all going to be covered up by hair. I tend to Hair tends to be one of those things that I come back to. Uh, it tends to be easier to do once you've kind of laid the rest of the foundation around it. So here's her neck. We got this little crow pin. I'm going to pull up some reference to make sure I'm getting this feel here and that it looks like a crow and not a raven or something. Okay, so from what I'm seeing, crows actually have a little bit of a longer bill. So that ought to work. And I decided that I wanted to do like a kind of like a stylized feather treatment. Okay, so this is like some kind of a brooch that that attaches her cloak here, and I'm going to give this a little thickness right there, make it look like it's a flat object. And then yeah, I'll come back to that for the rendering. Okay, start putting some lines out here. Sometimes you got to try a few times before you get the right line. Okay, so this is the cloak here, and the hood. So we got this bit is the cloak running over her shoulder. Here's the hood kind of falling down behind. Here's like the other side of the hood there. Probably drop a little shadow in there. And then we got the other side of the cloak that falls down over her arm here. Let's see, I'm going to have to put that in. Bring this out. This is the pauldron on her shoulder that the cloak is going to hang down from. So it's all going to kind of swoop down right there. Okay. Now move on to the armor. I'm going to come back later for all of that hair hanging down. Like I said, it tends to be one of the things I save for later. I do draw in a pretty traditional style, like very much the way that you would if you were using pen and ink, or brush and ink. But I do work almost exclusively digitally. You know, I can ink with a brush when I need to, but digital just has so many advantages. The ability to, you know, undo is worth millions. And then just like the ability to, oh, I drew that head too small, let me just blow it up. That kind of stuff, you know, it's just too valuable. I would not work on paper for actual work, unless I needed to for some reason. All right, so let's see. I think I'm going to give her like a regular kind of blunt, round edge here, and I'm going to go and pencil these in loosely so I don't have to just completely fake it. I'm going to put some little straps here on this like underside of her bracers. All right, finish that up. Little wrist bit. And then these kind of come to a point. And I think I'm continually tempted to start going in and doing, you know, shading and rendering and stuff. But I'm going to hold off for now. I'm going to try to get the whole structure mostly inked before I come back for those details. Part of the reason for that is I think it's just saves time. maybe to to do each step separately. But I think the better reason is that I almost gave her nails there. I don't feel like she's a nails kind of character. Um, I don't know. No, probably not. Probably not at all. Um, okay. This is a good example. I was talking earlier about how everything is made of C curves and S curves. Um, Here's a perfect example. This is the way I draw fingers almost all the time. This is like my standard stereotyped cheat kind of line pattern for fingers. Um, so, boom, C curve. Now comes the S curve. Another whoops, S curve. Another long C curve, and boom, that's it. Put a little knuckle in there. Put a little nail. Okay, so now we're going to do another one. I drew these fingers here as a mass, just roughed them in. Hands are one of those things that I draw so much, and I've kind of developed such a little like system for that I don't need a lot of detail in my pencils to get it right in the inks. You know, some other things, that's not the case. Um, so each one of these is just a little C curve, S curve, S curve, C curve. And then I put back in the, now that finger came out too small. And also it's kind of blocked right there. That line shouldn't have connected. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty good. And later when I come back, I'll put some little drop shadows under there, but I'm going to leave it alone right now because, like I said, I'm doing the basics first. All right, so here is her little leather armor kind of situation. There's these, I don't know if these are stitches or metal clips or some kind. We'll figure that out when we get there. Okay. This is good. This saving all the rendering and detailing for later. Oh, I didn't mention. I was talking about why I do that. I got distracted myself. But the best reason to save that stuff for later is that you have a better, once you've put all the like basic lines in, you have a better sense of where the density of detail is in your image. Sometimes, you know, you go in the beginning and like you start putting in all of this, you know, black ink, really filling up the space, and that looks fine, but it's entirely possible that when I get there later, I'll find that I don't want it so dark there, or I don't want so much detail, so many lines kind of flopping around. So we'll come back to that, and we'll see how we feel then. And then hopefully just being in a situation where I can do everything at once, it'll go quicker. All right, let's see. The armor bit is done there. I'm going to jump down to this sword hilt here. It's in the sheath. Give it a little like edge, a little I don't know what you call that, but it's got a little kind of protruding section. I'm going to make some rulers to get this nice and straight. And now I am going to make a little bit of grass here. Here's those zigzaggy lines I was talking about for the end of the sword hilt to kind of poke into. That That might be too much. I'm gonna knock this back over here. Maybe a little bit. We'll come back and do all the grass later, but I wanted to get that out of the way right now. This thing is tilted. That's why I couldn't get it right earlier and had to keep redrawing it, because it was tilted. I knew it looked wrong. Blue line that real quick to keep it visually distinct so I don't confuse myself. A little pommel on the handle there, a little wrap. All right, move on to this sword belt. Another one of those little simple belt buckles. See, right there, I went to erase that, and I erased into the actual part of the buckle that I wanted to keep, because I didn't do that on a separate layer. If I had happened to hit my Control N and got another layer at that point, that would have been easy to deal with. I mean, it wasn't, hard to deal with. Also, this doesn't actually work. It's a little too skinny. Okay, there we go. That works. I'll go ahead and merge that down. A lot of times I'll periodically merge some layers down just to keep it from getting all like too out of control. Oh yeah, we got to add these little strappy bits on this forearm. Sometimes, if I want to cheat, I'll make that bit first, then come back and put these. That's not cheating, really. That's just taking advantage of the nature of digital tools. But despite what I said about preferring to use digital tools, there is kind of like there's a thing in my head where I always like to feel like I could do it the old-fashioned way if I had to. So I don't like to get too reliant on stuff like that. All right, that'll do. Let's see, move on to the legs. All right, nice long straight line there. I like to, there's a design principle called straights against curves, which is basically that it looks good to have a straight line against a curved line. And anytime, despite the fact that her leg would not be perfectly straight here, this is a cartoon, and we can do things like that. So when I have the opportunity to do something like that, see, there's the straight, boom, there's the curve. And that gives us like just a nice, like appealing visual shape. Like aside from, how it looks, as part of the character or whatever, it's just an arrangement of lines that just looks good to our eyes. It just like feels good. So I'll do some videos about that stuff too. That's an element that I find super interesting. Put some for all my talk about avoiding details, I find it kind of difficult to do when I get to these folds. And folds are a pretty complex subject. Drapery, the way clothing and fabric like hangs and folds and stuff. It's a difficult subject. There's a lot to learn there. It used to give me fits when I was younger. I'll redo that bit here. I spent a lot of time doing it, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it now. The way I handle this stuff is not super realistic. There is an element of cartoon to it, but I think it's a nice middle ground. All right, this boot. Now, with these kind of like buccaneer boots or whatever you'd call them, where that have this like flipped over bit, I'm always a little iffy about how to handle the part where they diverge there. So I'm gonna go ahead and look something up and see if I can find something. Okay, so I hope this is okay for copyright. Here's a picture I pulled off of Google Images. Now this one, it looks like it's actually kind of got a sewn seam and stuff rather than just being the leather kind of split and folded over. But that gives me enough to work with. I think maybe I will give it a bit of a hard edge there, like it's like you know there probably would be a seam sewn there or something. So okay, well let's just move on with the rest of this boot. That works. It's a little stylized, but that's cool. Start creating this little metal plate here. I deleted that line because it was too thick. Typically, when you're doing this thick and thin, like brushy kind of line style and inking style, you want to make the thickness of the lines work for you in the way they that got a little ugly. In the way they kind of suggest shadow. And typically, you're going to want, assuming that the light source is coming from the top, you're typically going to want to make your heavier lines on the bottom, and your lines on the top, let them be thinner and lighter, to suggest that that is a lighter area of the object. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of impossible for me to stay away from some of this detail. All right. Make a new layer. Shoes especially were something that were really hard for me for a long time. And eventually, like I just really sat down and did the study on figuring out how shoes are kind of structured and constructed, and they're actually pretty simple once you understand them, and you can make a lot of cool shapes. I love to draw these like pointy-toed boots, and once you get the hang of it, there's kind of like a simple little system for doing it. Maybe I'll do that. Matter of fact, first of all, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. And let me know what you want to see. I'm mentioning a lot of things here that I think I might want to do videos about. But if you have anything you want to see, anything drawing or drawing related, maybe like storytelling related, I know I'm going to do some stuff about comic storytelling, because that's a really interesting subject, and it's one that's I think is kind of hard to find good detailed information about. And comic books are, I've drawn comic books for many years. I've probably drawn 1,000 pages of comics. That's like one of the main things I do. So I've got a lot to say about the subject of storytelling in comics. It's a subject I take very seriously. So I'll definitely talk about that. but yeah, I don't know if you guys want to see um, basic art tutorials, how to draw a face, um, how to draw a car. I don't know, or maybe more conceptual stuff. I don't really know what this channel is going to be yet. Right this second, I'm just drawing and talking about it and posting videos. I 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, I just got it in my head. I think I was listening to a podcast, and I just thought I should start a YouTube channel. Um, and I had everything I needed to do it right away, at least at some level. So I just decided to do it, and that was what the last video was here. Um, I know my camera is not great. I know my microphone is not great, but we work with what we have. I ordered some stuff already. I got some stuff coming. Um, so I will learn as I go, uh, and I will figure out let's see. I will figure out what I'm doing as I go. Um, I'm kind of losing track. All right, all right. I was looking too close up, and I was losing track of the perspective of this boot. I do want to see the bottom of the boot here. So there we go. Okay, that's good. Um, Perfect. And I'll go ahead and fill that in because there's no way I'm not going to black that in when it comes down to it. And let's put a little bit of grass on top of that. Cool. That works. All right. Chop some of this out. Lovely. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to combine some of these layers. All right, got all of that combined. Now, since I'm going to be working into this area where I've already drawn some lines and there's going to be some overlaps and stuff, I'm going to blue line that just to, like I said before, to keep from confusing myself. I know this overlaps. I'll make another layer for the metal plate. Perfect. Alrighty. I mean, not perfect, but I'm not a perfectionist. I'm kind of a good enoughist. I have standards. I have, I think, reasonably high standards for my art, but I also think that it's never going to be perfect. So you get it good enough, and you move on. And that's one of the things I like about cartooning. Why I think I gravitated toward comic books instead of like digital painting or something like that. I learned a long time ago that I don't like to spend 20 hours on one picture. I like to get in and out in a few hours if I can. So cartooning and comic book style art is a good thing for that. It's not as laborious as painting can be. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, I know there's people who paint really quite quickly, but this is and there's much quicker ways to do cartooning than this too. Like, this is still fairly detailed, but I have kind of over the years consciously honed my style to be quick to draw while still looking good and having enough detail. I feel like this part of the hat is too long. So I am going to jump into quick mask mode real quick right here, touch up that selection, and then I'm going to pop that to a new layer and move it back a bit. There we go. Okay, that looks better. She needs to have a little bit of bags under her eyes. I don't think she may be having a good time, but I don't think she's probably slept a lot lately. That works. Okay. Let's see. What shall we do next? We got most of the figure done. I'll go ahead and do the hair now. I am going to, let me pop that nose to a new layer. Merge this face stuff down. Still going to want to keep the hat separate because the hair is going to be coming from underneath the hat. And wow, looks like I've been hanging out of the frame this whole time. Should have had my OBS up. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to pop all this stuff to blue line real quick. Make a new layer, and then when I draw her hair, I want her to look like she's got kind of stringy hair, not very like well kempt necessarily. So I use this like I don't use like a nice long swooping line like that. I use this kind of wobbly, scraggly line. So there's that. Have this coming down this way. All right, let's see. This back here, I feel from the angle it wouldn't fall straight over the shoulder like that. It would kind of lay along it. But we don't have to get, let's put some like kind of free floating stragglers there. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's clean up the other layers behind it that need to go away. And that's pretty good. What do we got left? We got the wine bottle. Let's see, do I still have my perspective layers? Yes, I still have my perspective layer active. I just hit my hotkey to turn snap to rulers back on so I can get my nice straight lines for the wine bottle. And I scribbled in some wine bottle kind of nonsense here, some like little wobblies in the corner. Little let's see, little like banner right there, some stuff you can't read, and then maybe like a crest, another little word, stuff you can't read, some something. Okay, that looks like a wine bottle label. The mouth of the bottle has a taper to it, so I'll just freehand that. as well as the yeah, the mouth, the neck. The neck was what I meant, but the mouth too. Oh, look, I'm doing it. I'm putting all them details in. It's almost impossible to not. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I'll come back to that. Alright, we on one layer? Okay. There's a lot of this stuff that I'm tempted to merge down right now, but I don't want to do it until I come back for the final kind of detail pass. Now I did just realize that I was going to delete this eye bit behind her hair, but that takes out almost her whole eye, so I'm going to want to cut that back a little bit. Okay, now it's just kind of coming right over the edge of her eye, so now she's kind of peeking out. That's pretty cool. That looks good. And I think I've identified it's that like downturned corner here that's making her look a little smarmy, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. It's the downturned corner there too. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Tweak this eye a little too. I want her to look, give her a little bit of like a wry smile, and I feel like, you know, a lot of the smile comes from the bottom lid, how it kind of lifts up toward the outside, and the cheekbone kind of pinches up under the eyelid. Not the cheekbone, the cheek itself. The muscles rise up, and it kind of, rather than being down here, it kind of pinches up there. So yeah, that's close enough for now. I might tweak that later on. All right, what's left on the figure here? Really, it looks like we're down to the cloak. So blue line all of that stuff, and then just start inking that in. Now, I was worried that I wouldn't have anything to talk about while I was inking, and that certainly hasn't seemed to be the case. But it is weird, like, there's definitely things to talk about, but there are also times where there isn't, you know, or maybe I just need to concentrate on my lines that I'm making. That doesn't quite work. I don't like this whole area. Let me and this is kind of coming out looking like this cloak is pretty stiff, but you know, if you've been wearing it down in dungeons and whatnot, week in, week out, fighting monsters and, you know, who knows what, trudging through bogs and all of that kind of stuff, you know, your cloak might get a little stiff. So let's see. That looks like it's floating a little too much. Let me flatten that out. Okay, that works well enough. I'm not sure about this bit. Okay, so I'm not sure that this whole cloak is like mathematically correct. You know, if you followed every fold and tried to make it connect to everything else and make sense, I don't know if it makes sense. But I feel like it's probably close enough. Let's put another little extra bit right there. I think it certainly gives the impression of being about right. I am going to merge down some of this stuff. I'm getting a lot of layers here. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the building. Now, like I mentioned before, in the last video, I am not going to use the perspective rulers, at least not much. I think I'll use it here for this, for these like crossbars on the window. I feel like those are something that would be reasonably like stiff. I'll give it a little bit of, not stiff, but you know, manufactured in a way that makes them fairly uniform. I don't know. But for the rest of this window here, I am going to, and for the rest of this building, in fact, I'm going to use, well, I guess I already used my freehand lines in the pencils, but you know, I did the initial lines with the aid of the perspective rulers. But I'm gonna like really kind of lean into getting these slightly wobbly lines to kind of sell that this is like natural, like kind of rough cut wood. Also, for the most part, I'm going to use somewhat lighter lines here. For the most part, I don't want, you know, I don't want the background lines to compete with the figure. Yeah, I'll leave that there. Especially around her face. You know, the face is pretty much the focal point of the image. So I'm gonna like, what I'll do is in the background, I will leave it a little empty right around her face. You know, I'll have all these lines. What the heck? I'll just go ahead and do it now. I'll have all these lines coming this way. But as you can see here, I'll let them kind of fade out when they get close to her head, and that will create sort of a like halo of space around her, and it will make her stand out more from the image. If I, is that all the same layer? Ooh, that wasn't good. I mean, it's not that bad, but I do like to keep that stuff on a separate layer, as I've been talking about here. But yeah, if I start putting like fat lines going right through here, it's really going to make all of this stuff blend into the background more, whereas I want it to stand out. So I'm going to keep it a little bit distant there. And if my constantly flipping back and forth between black and blue lines is weird, I'm sorry, but it's just the way I work. I find that it helps a lot just to kind of separate that, you know, that visual clutter. You know, it looks like there was uh, a little more of that cloak down here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Does that work? Alright, I think that works well enough, but I'm going to leave it separate from the rest of the layers for now. Again, letting the line be thin where it's close to the figure and letting it thicken up as it moves away. That doesn't have to be super exaggerated. You know, we do want to keep it looking somewhat naturalistic, but you know, these are those oh yeah, there were those knots that I don't know. Like I said before in the last video, I don't necessarily do those all the time. That's too many. They do add some interest, but I don't want a whole bunch of them, and I don't want them too close together, but like maybe I can put one over there. And let's see. Alright, we'll keep building this out over this way. Some of these planks I'm going to want to like leave a little bit of open spaces between the planks. You can see some right here and right here, over here, where it's not all like filled in black, like it's really dark. You know, I want to leave it a little bit open. Now underneath here I can put a little, you know, drop a little bit of a shadow, because there will be a little bit of a shadow there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw in this spilled wine right there. Let me get this line to continue across so I got something to work from. Alright, some little... I guess we're past the point where I'm not putting in details. I'm just going to accept it. Alright, let's see. Continue that line here. Alright, we are getting really close to being done here. Let me pop a new layer to do this little I didn't know what to call this last time. I don't know what to call it this time. Whatever this little structure around the what is it? Not a pillar, post, I guess. And then this, you know, I'll give this a little bit of wood grain, but I kind of want to suggest that this is like a different kind of wood. I'm not sure why. And there's like a little nail or like a wooden pin. Okay, that was a nice line on the first try. Maybe a little thick, but it's okay. That is on kind of the shadow side of the image, so it's okay for the lines to get thick there. I like this line, but I'm just going to move it slightly because it's a little too much in the middle. All right, let's see. That's pretty much. Oh, there was inside the room there. There were some like table legs, and I'm going to leave that. There's really only one left now that I moved the frame. I'm just going to make that faint. I will also, I didn't do any lines for the. I'm lost. I got too many layers. Okay, here we go. I didn't do any lines for the like floorboards inside, so I'm just gonna like rough some of those in using my perspective ruler, just to keep me straight when I do this, and then like when I actually draw the lines in. And again, they're faint here because these are supposed to be like inside the window, so everything inside the window is going to have like a little bit of like it's going to be a little frosted by the window pane, and we don't want real like heavy duty clear strong lines in there. We just want it like kind of suggested a little more. And as a matter of fact, I am going to go in here and strengthen some of these lines. This should actually have like a inside sill, so that's going to kind of overwrite some of these lines here. All right, that's good. And then just a little bit of kind of, actually, I think these kind of pseudo-medieval windows are not the most perfect kind of construction. So I'm going to put a little bit of wobble to these shine lines, because I don't think these windows would have been super perfect panes of glass. I mean, I don't know a lot about that kind of stuff, but it just seems like maybe that's the case. So the way I like to handle these shine lines is to knock out some, but not all of the line work behind them. All right, that works pretty well, and a lot of that will be taken care of in the coloring. All right. This line came out a little too thick because that's actually the corner, and then here is the actual kind of dividing line of this like concrete or stone foundation. The line that separates this this foundation from the wooden boards above there. And then we got a little board that, or a post that extends out a bit from the edge, right up to the edge of that foundation. Give that like another little nail. Let's see, where is, yeah, there we go. There's the edge of that one. Okay. Carry that foundation line down. Put some little like pock marks, maybe some cracks. That ought to be enough to give it the look of stone rather than wood. Now I'm going to come in here and start throwing in some of this grass. Got our zigzaggies again. I like to just, try to vary the directions and stuff. It's not just a straight zigzag, let them come in different directions. Make some are open, some are kind of closed, triangle or like V shapes. Some of them are like just lines. But get some visual variety in there, and then we'll go do the same thing at the edge of this like shrub or whatever is there. This is kind of like I showed my, these lines. This is kind of what I'm doing here. It's kind of the same lines. I'm making them a little more rough, a little more like squared off, because it's not supposed to be bubbles, but it's supposed to be, to represent like foliage or something. So what I usually like to do is get a bunch of that kind of thing going, and then just kind of pop in a few individual bits, and then drop a little shadow. Alright, that looks pretty good. What next? Alright, let me just, I'll go ahead and do these grass bits here. I think that might be drifting up a little bit. And I'm just kind of going by feel. Alright, we got all that grass in there. Now just drop this last plank down. Little knot hole. Wood grain, wood texture, whatever you call that. And here, let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline her shadow a little bit, and I'm not going to fill it in black, I'm just going to kind of hatch it. I think that'll work. And then how am I going to deal with, I think I'll deal with her shadow on the grass by just putting in grass there. And just kind of increasing the density of the detail here. Does that work? I'm not so sure about that. Did I do that all on that layer? Well, I hope my undo goes back far enough. Oh, okay. Well, that's not bad. All right, make sure I make another layer. What I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and flip it because it's easier for me to draw in this direction, is I'll put in a little bit less, but like the do the grass lines as like an outline. Throw a little bit in there. Do I want to do it like this? No, that's too much. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of snipe in a little bit of grass detail here. Start creating some other stuff over here, but I think this area here I will just deal with that in the colors. All right, so now we are at filling in the rest of this grass stuff, and I want to make sure not to make all of these little grass bits like too identical. I don't want them to all look just like each other. And I want to kind of clump them together a little bit so they're not spread out too evenly. Maybe around this edge I'll add some extra bits up here. That's pretty good. All right, let me go ahead and ink my nameplate here, whatever you call that. Go to my lettering pen. The lettering pen is a little thicker, a little wider going horizontally than it is vertically. That's pretty typical of the kind of pens used in lettering. It gives a little bit of interest to the letters. All right, back to my inking pen. And, oh, that's bad. I don't know what happened there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I went a little overboard on kind of keeping this halo away from her head here. So I'm going to put a little bit extra in here. And then, yeah, that's mostly it. We do have to go back and do that detail that I was avoiding in the first place. So let's get after it. I'm just going to be putting in some kind of stock shiny bits here. A few lines. Always like some little hatch marks to kind of suggest texture. I already got at the very beginning like a little bit of shadow on the edge there. Do I want to drop a shadow from the hat in the inks? Probably not. I'll probably handle that in colors. I will drop a little shadow here. And I think I'll just put little like little bit there. Yeah, that's cool. Drop a shadow from the cloak. Shadow from the body here. That arm is going to kind of mostly get lost behind this body. Um, yeah, all of these little like overlapping leather plates here. Um, Drop a bit of a shadow, and then put some of these like edge. I don't know what to call that, but these little bits on the edge to kind of suggest that the form turns a little bit there. And actually, considering this is supposed to be armor, um, I better give it a little bit of damage. Make it look like it's functioned as armor a bit. So start kind of putting some little like hacks and chops in here, especially up on this pauldron bit there. I might actually want to kind of make that like mess with the edge there to give it like some real dimensionality. Look like she's taking some chops here. Drop a shadow from that cloak. Drop a shadow from that pauldron there. I do like to drop a little bit of a chin shadow. Then maybe beef up the shadows on the edge of this cloak here. A little bit. That was a little too much. Beef these up, especially on the right, our left edge. That's kind of our shadow side of this image. Let's see. Often with big kind of open expanses of the page here, like this leg here, for instance, I like to just put a couple of little hatch marks to kind of make it feel like there's something there. Alrighty. Do I like that mark? Nah, I'm gonna leave that. Well, I don't know. Do I like this edge of the eye here or not? I think I'm going to leave it open. There's kind of like a cartoony quality to that I really like. All right, I'm going to come in here, thicken up the lines, and essentially, create some shadow on the edge of these pants here. This area here is going to be all in shadow for sure. I think I'm going to leave a little bit of light there. Alrighty. This is definitely going to cast a shadow there. And these are like nice shiny boots, so if they were dull, I would be doing the shadow all the way to the edge here. But with shine, a lot of times, I like to leave the shadow offset from the edge, so it suggests there's like a little bit of shine on the edge there. I don't know how much I'm going to get into that kind of thing. If I do like inking tutorials, which I'm sure I will, I'll talk about that kind of stuff, my own personal preferences and theories of inking. Let's see, I don't want to black out this whole bottom of the shoe, but I'm going to put kind of a gradient there. Drop some shadows underneath these metal plates. Where are we at? Oh, I missed this spot. I also missed dropping shadows under the fingers. Maybe I should have done all this stuff in the first place. It seems, my brain wants to. And I am going to cast some shadows back to the body here. Let's see. This, I'm going to put another little, how do I want to handle this? The different kinds of hatch marks you use to just kind of fill up the space here can kind of suggest different qualities of like the texture. Like here, these ones on the pants are kind of short. They're almost little, just like little flicks. These are a little longer. You notice they all kind of go the same direction. On the pants, they all kind of swoop that way. And on the sword, I did them like this way. These ones on the armor here are a little, kind of little fat ones. All right, let me render some of this here. All right. Shadows, drop a shadow there. All right. A little more shadow in here. Maybe a little more dropping from that belt. And that might be about it. Let me, first of all, I should have done this in the first place. I'm going to go back and put all of these things into one layer group. Get everything. Let me get rid of that. I've had this grid overlay up the whole time for almost no reason. I get used to drawing with it a lot, but it's not always necessary. Most of the time it's not really necessary, and it definitely is probably unsightly. So I'm going to have to remember that in the future to make sure that is not obscuring your view. Okay, yeah, drop some little bits of shadows for this cloak. I guess, yeah. This belt. Missed some of this detail here. And let's see, maybe I want to drop a little something, a little shadow for this sword here. That should really go like straight down. I think I might do that like hatched thing again. And I think that might be it. Let me let's see. Here's my frame. I'll go into quick mask mode real quick. Fill that, reverse it. And then what I'll do is go to my layer up here. Whoops, other way. Create a mask. Remove my pencil layer. Never really ended up, well, a little bit referred back to this. But still got some pencil layers showing up. Okay. that's about it. I do feel like it's looking a little flimsy on the lines. Once I get rid of everything there, it's a little. I went a little light on a lot of these background lines. For one thing, I probably should drop some little bits of shadow for this grass. That's cool. That helps. Beefs it up a little bit. Yeah, it was a little flimsy with the background inking here. I kind of overdid it, trying not to overshadow the main illustration. But well, you know what we should do is put like, yeah, create some places where the boards like overlap, or not overlap, but like where we have like the end of one board and the beginning of another one. That'll create a little more visual interest too. Um, but yeah, looks like I can never just leave well enough alone. There's always one more kind of thing to do. In fact, I'm going to cast just a little bit of a shadow all over the place here. Um, especially down here. All right. Well, that's about going to do it. This is good enough for now. There's a good chance that when I come back to ink it to color it in a few days, I'll see some stuff about the inking that I don't like. So I'll go ahead and fix that then. Obviously, I cannot leave well enough alone. Okay. So I'm calling that done. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what kind of videos you would like to see from me. You know, I plan to do a whole lot of instructional content, as well as, you know, probably just drawing just like this, narrating it. This is not, I don't know if this is instructional. I hope people are finding it instructional, but it's not like a formal instructional. So we'll do both of those things. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. I'll be back soon with coloring on this image. Thank you. Bye.